Good day, everyone. I am Rika May B. Sugano,
And I am Sirzal Kate Yakapen.
and we are the 13th reporter from CN 312 Block G.
Here to discuss about the theory of moral development by Lawrence Kohlberg.
We have three objectives that we wish to accomplish for today's report. But before that, next slide. We have a quote here by Lawrence Kohlberg. This quote is like a general introduction of what Kohlberg believes in and what his theory emphasizes. So next slide. So for the short background, his full name is Lawrence Kohlberg. So basically, he was the youngest of four siblings and was born on Bronxville, New York. So the rest of the info is on the slides, but we will no longer focus on that. So next slide. So for the key points of the important timeline of his work, in 1948, he graduated in a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, and in 1957 to 1958, he developed his theory, and in 1997, he committed suicide by drowning himself in Boston Harbor. So, for the inspiration of his work, while pursuing his doctoral degree, Kohlberg became interested in Jean Piaget's work on the moral development of children. So, according to Piaget, children naturally progress from a form of moral reasoning based on the consequences of an act. So, Kohlberg extended Jean Piaget's work. So even if Kohlberg was interested in Jean Piaget's work, there are a few ways on how we can distinguish their work. So Piaget conceptualizes moral development as a constructivistic process whereby the interplay of action and thought builds moral concept. However, Kohlberg's theory focuses on how children develop morality and reasoning based on what they would think the outcome of their choices might be. So generally, in Kohlberg's theory, he asks a series of questions that would critically examine your moral choices, so which he based on Heinz dilemma. It is a thought exercise that uses the study of ethics and morality scenarios. So actually, this is a true story based on a guy who lived in Europe. So before we discuss about the actual theory itself, I just want to give a short overview about how it was built so we can easily understand the weakness and the critics of the theory. So to build his theory, Kohlberg interviewed 72 lower and middle class white boys, presenting each with a moral dilemma. So the moral dilemma was whether it would be permissible for a poor man to steal medicine for his dying wife. Kung bisayaon pa nato, okay na ba nga mangawat ang pobre nga lalaki para sa iyang kamatinan nga asawa? Okay, some of you may say yes, and some of you may say no for a variety of reasons, just like how the children which Kohlberg interviewed responded to Kohlberg. So again, the children's responses became the basis of his six-stage theory of moral development. So next slide, please. So this is like the setting of how Kohlberg based his theory by asking 72 lower and middle class white men. There are a few important terminologies that we have to remember. So first, here we have moral development theory. So it is a theory that focuses on how children develop morality and moral reasoning. So we can also consider it as how someone chooses to follow the law, even if there seems to be nothing from preventing them from breaking it. The next terminology we have is moral development. It is what each person goes through as they grow and develop. This also refers to the way people choose between right and wrong as they mature. And additionally, moral development prevents people from acting on unchecked urges or what they would want to do despite the consequences. So instead, people consider what is right for the society and, of course, what is good for others. So what you see here is the summary of Kohlberg's theory of moral development. So as you can see, it composes of three levels, namely the pre-conventional, conventional, and the post-conventional level. Each level has two stages which differentiate in intensity and how one would react. Now let's proceed to the first level, or the pre-conventional level. So, in this level, children accept the authority and moral code of others. So, in this stage, they believe that if an action leads to punishment, then it must be bad. And if an action leads to reward, it must be good. And it is also said that in this stage, it happens between the ages of 3 to 7 years old. For stage 1, it is called punishment or obedience, but in some textbooks, it is also called avoiding punishment. So, in this stage, the child conceives of right acts as those that enable him to avoid punishment. This means that in this stage, the child thinks critically before doing an action to avoid the consequences that they might face. Example of this is when you tell a child, no, that's dangerous. Tas ibuhat na siya sa other people. Naday maingon uban nga bata maingon na, no, 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 that's bad. This is because the child is aware that it is wrong and if it is trying to be obedient. So if we base it on Heinz dilemma, the example that I provided earlier on how Kohlberg's theory was built, the answer of the child would suggest that Heinz should not steal the drug because stealing is illegal and he could be punished. Now let's proceed to the second stage of the level 1, which is called instrumental orientation. So in this stage, action are seen as terms of rewards rather than in moral value. So this means that it's a little bit contradictory to the first stage. In this stage, the child thinks of the benefits that they would have if they do the action. So if ato siyang i-base sa Heinz dilemma, it would suggest that Heinz should steal the drug so his wife would feel better. So unlike the stage 1, the child thinks about the consequences. But in stage 2, the child thinks of the benefits that they would receive.
So now we will discuss the level 2, which is the conventional level. In this level, ang individual kay adolescent na sila, meaning nagkaedad na since between middle school naman niya siya. And diri na stage ang children kay gina-accept na nila ang rules of authority, but this is due to their belief that it is necessary to ensure positive relationship and societal order. Rules unconventional is somewhat rigid during this stage, and rules appropriateness or fairness is seldom questioned. In this stage, children want approval of others and act in a way disapproval. Thus, this level emphasis is placed on good behavior and other people being nice to others. So level 2 conventional stages, and these are the stages of the level 2, which are the good boy, nice girl orientation and law and order orientation. First, we'll discuss the good boy, nice girl orientation, which focuses on the pakikisama sa individual sa ubang tao. In this stage, ang individual kinana sila silang teenager nga phase, in which the individual in this stage is independent on the social expectation and rules in their environment. The individual became obedient because they know that their action can reflect to their image and pakikisama sa ubang tao kay ang children or ang individual gusto silang approval of others. Since, di ba, kay ang kani siya nga stage kay murag gakuan man ni siya sa imuhang pakikisama sa ubang tao. Thus, this stage also known as the interpersonal relationship phase. For example, ang children naghatag siya og lunch sa mga street peasant because she thinks doing so means being nice. Now we'll proceed to the stage 4, which is ang law and order orientation. Children blindly accept rules and convention in order to maintain functional society. Rules are seen as being nice, as being the same for everyone, and obeying the rules by doing what is one supposed to do is invaluable and important. In this stage, the individual considered the law sa society before sila mag-make of judgment or decision. Since the society is the main consideration of a person at this stage, for an instant, ang policeman, gina-refuse niya ay ginag-refuse siya og money to offer to him under the table and arrest the offender because he believed that this is his duty as an officer of peace and order. Busa, gina-refuse niya mo dawat og money sa offender. So now we'll discuss the level 3, which is the last level, the post-conventional morality. Formal operation thought is attained during this level. Kani formal operation, kay part siya sa theory ni Jean, which is the fourth period. And it states that the individual thinking moves to abstract and theoretical subject. Between niya siya nga level sa college years, which is sa amuang years. In this stage, the idea of individual are based on their principles and their sense of morality is defined in terms of more abstract principle and value. Individual in this stage live by their own ethical principle, which includes basic human rights, liberty, and justice, and view rule as useful but changeable rather than absolute dictates that must be obeyed without question. Lawrence Kohlberg and other theorists have speculated that many other people may never reach this level of progress. And now we'll discuss the stages of level 3, which are the social contract orientation and the universal ethical principle orientation. First, we'll discuss the stage 5, the social contract orientation and individual rights orientation that accounts the different value, right, and opinion of the world. And the rules of law is important to maintain the order of society, but its members should agree on its standard, in which individual rights of everyone is dili dapat malabag sa bisag kinsa. The individual in this stage consider individual rights before taking an action or decision. For example, an individual may say that Shara should steal the drug because the right to live and the principle of fairness outweigh the property rights of the pharmacist who own the drug. So, next is the stage 6, which is the universal ethical principle orientation. This stage is the highest stage functioning. Yet according kay Kohlberg, na dili tanan tao ang makaabot ani nga stage. Kaya ang appropriate action is determined by the one self-chosen ethical principle of conscience in which this principle is universal and abstract in application. The decision or action of individual kailangan i-take into consideration ang right and wrong effect. For example, individual may say Shara should steal the drug because it's the right thing to do, even if it means breaking the law and risking punishment. They may also say that the ethical principle of human life value is more important than the legal or social norm. And that ends the level and stages of Kohlberg's theory. Basic tenets of Kohlberg's theory. Cross-sectional data shows that older individuals tend to use higher stage of normal reasoning compared with younger individuals. Longitudinal study shows upward progression in accordance with Kohlberg's theoretical order of stages. Studies also reveal that comprehension of this stage is cumulative and the comprehension of higher stage is increasingly difficult. Age trends receive cross-cultural support, and data support the claim that every individual progresses through the same sequence of development. However, the rate of development will vary. Critic Kohlberg has been criticized by Carol Gillingan for his assertion that women seem to be more deficient in their moral abilities when compared to men because it was based narrowly on research using white upper-class men and boys. Because sa paghimo ni Kohlberg sa iyang theory, mas daghan niya ang gigamit nga men as subject compared sa women, because he also believed that women tend to remain at the third stage of moral development. Second, critics pointed out that Kohlberg's theory overemphasized the concept of justice when making moral decisions. Another critics argue that Kohlberg's theory of development are culturally biased because the highest stage reflect a westernized idea of justice based on the individualistic thought. This is bias against those who lived in non-Western societies. Lastly, another criticism of Kohlberg's theory that people frequently demonstrate inconsistency in their moral judgment, which occurs in moral dilemmas involving drinking and driving.
And now let us proceed to the application of Kohlberg's theory. So understanding Kohlberg's theory of moral development is important as it can help parents guide their children as they develop their moral character. Parents with younger children might also work on rule obedience and, for instance, where they might teach older children about social expectations. So this can also help teachers analyze their students' behavior of kanong badlungan man siya nga student and so on and so forth. But for nurses, moral development can help us understand patient's moral reasoning and mas masabtan nato unsay reaction sa patient if inani atong buhaton and mas masabtan nato why niya tud nabuhat, which really can help us have more patience in dealing with them.
So, to summary the theory of Kohlberg, moral development focuses on how children develop their morality and moral reasoning. This theory suggests that moral logic is primarily focused on seeking and maintaining justice. So, theory of moral development occurs in a series of 3 levels, which is per level na siya duwa ka stages. Since inspired man ni siya kay Jean, mura gyapon niya siya og cognitive development that follows a series of stages sa development sa reasoning and thinking process. Theory of moral development follows the levels of pre-conventional morality, which emphasizes children's response to cultural rules and labels of good and bad. Second level, conventional morality, that states individual is concerned with maintaining the expectation of family, peers, or community. And lastly, the post-conventional morality level, that individual makes an effort to define valid values and principles. Yet, according to Kohlberg, not everyone progresses to the highest level of moral development. This theory believes that moral development involves respect for other humans and that relationships are based on mutual trust. And that would be all for Lawrence Kohlberg's theory of moral development.
Thank you for listening, and again, I am Ricame B. Suganov.
And I am Sir Katia Capet. We hope you have a great day.